Welcome everybody to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie. And today we're going to be continuing our Putting in the Work series for all you entrepreneurs out there, future entrepreneurs, and those of you who are still sitting on the fence. Today we're going to be talking about what it means to get a grip. How do you literally put in the work, start a business, and then lead it to sustainability and thriving? I know the end goal is not only to fulfill your dreams, but also figure out how do you put dollars in the bank. Today, we're going to be joined by some amazing subject matter experts who are living in the space and helping us discover and understand what it means to put in the work and get a grip. We're joined today by Levita Marshall of Air Development Corp. Also, Manasseh Marshall of Air Development Corp. and Pam Sams of Jackson Sams Wealth Strategies. Welcome in, family. I am excited. Hey, everybody.
Howdy.
Ooh, we say this all the time, that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. Mm-hmm. And as we consider what this looks like for people today trying to navigate the space of doing it on their own, I want to just jump right in with Pam Sams. And Pam, tell us, I ask you this almost every time you're here. Yeah. Our audience still is getting to know you because they're like, well, strategy. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? So Pam, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and the industry and where that trajectory is headed today.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Pamela Sams, Jackson Sams Wealth Strategies. I started my firm 23 years ago, really at the precipice of figuring out what, when my father passed away, helping my mother transition to becoming a widow. So that kind of threw me into entrepreneurship, or at least where I wanted to start at that point. So Wealth Strategies is really all about financial planning. What do you want to do with your money? Really giving your money an assignment. That's what I tell people, is that your money will do anything you want it to do, but it has to have some structure. So all about financial planning. And then those wealth strategies are really how am I going to build my wealth? Is it going to be at a job with a 401k? Is it going to be real estate? Is it going to be life insurance? It can be a variety of different ways to build wealth. So that's basically what Wealth Strategies is all about.
Absolutely. I appreciate you diving in and sharing, that information, because we all make money and then we put it in the bank. And sometimes the bank isn't the best place for your money to be. So thank you for sharing a little bit about your industry. And I want to jump over to Levita, because Levita's been on with us before and our audience just adores you. And they know you as educator. But you also hold a dual role in your family business. Tell us a little bit about Air Development and the work that you do there in that company.
Okay, so we, just like Pam, we actually started well over 2 decades ago. And it started out as us just kind of doing what as the flipping houses. And so we like to call it real estate investing. That's what we started out as. And it was just the 2 of us. We didn't even have any children yet. So it's been quite a while, probably over 25 years. That's how we started. Over the years, we both had our positions in other companies, but we've always kept that base of having that real estate investing company. It's kind of made a lot of transitions. We've tweaked some things, we added some things, we took away some things, but we still have that core of, doing real estate investing, and it pretty much centers around that, at Air Development Group. And so I did transition out as a full-time educator about 3 years ago. And just my main role is pretty much operations, all things operations. So that's kind of what I do now, and kind of just been enjoying the journey.
We can tell by the smile on your face that the transition is something that you've totally embraced. And oftentimes when people think about how to do both, they oftentimes stumble, but you've managed to have grace in making that transition and bringing in who you are into your industry. Manasseh Marshall, now you're in working with your spouse in Air Development, and you also hold a second role as an employee with the city of Houston. Walk us through and talk to us about your role in the company, and then how does that lend itself to the work that you do day to day representing the great state of Texas?
Sure. So definitely a double E, as you call it. Love what I do, but we also wanted to make sure we were leaving a legacy, and we wanted it to be something that fit with our DNA. And as she mentioned, she's all things operations. I get to do things from a really high level, more executive thought and vision casting, and then the team just carries it out. So specifically, I'm with Houston Business Development, and we're a 40-year-old CDFI, which is a community development financial institution. And we do affordable housing development and small business lending. I absolutely adore the space. And so we have been here in the Houston area, like I said, 4 decades, and it's been a great journey. I've been with the firm a decade, and during this time, we've just seen so much growth in the space with entrepreneurial learning. So excited to be able to weigh in on that. But as it relates to our legacy business and our family office, it has morphed, as she mentioned, from just flipping, and we did this 2.5 decades ago. We started in 2000, and now we do development consulting. We do land development analyses, and those allow people who just don't know what to do with their land. It gives them some direction. So our space is still one that's growing, emerging. We're excited about being able to share that even to the next generation. So talk more about that.
I appreciate that insight, because a lot of people, and for you viewers who are out there, it's a lot, and you're talking about navigating all the nuances related to not only starting a business, understanding the legal ramifications of having a business, doing the work associated with the business, and then getting people to buy in to what it is that you're putting out there. And oftentimes in our GRIP today, one of those G's is grit. What does grit look like, Pam, for you? The grit, the grind, and the grace, all three of them somewhat have to merge together in order for us to even say, I want to stay in this entrepreneurship game. And so what are some tips that you would give our audience associated with being able to marry the G's together to be successful and sustainable?
Yeah, the 3 G's. So really grit. And I think I've shared this with you before, Dr. Jacquie, is that if you don't love what you are doing out there in your entrepreneurial journey, the grit is just that's not going to work, because you have to believe in what you are out doing in your life. So for me, financial planning and wealth management is really all about educating people about where their money is. So every day I get up and it's like, who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to influence? Who do I need to really grab by the shoulders and say, you really need to do what you need to do with your money and give it some direction? So if I wasn't passionate about what I do every day, it's just not going to work in terms of entrepreneurs. So that's really the first tip. And then really, again, with that grit is finding a way to make it happen. Over the last 23 years, I probably in my mind quit this industry or this career or being an entrepreneur. And it's like, why can't I just go back to corporate? Because this is just not going to work. But again, it was that mission. It was that if I'm not there, who is going to be out here educating people about their money and getting them where they need to go? So really having that passion keeps you going on a day-to-day basis. And then, of course, giving yourself some grace as you go through. You're not going to have all of the pieces as you go through entrepreneurship. There will be failures. There will be fits and starts. There will be everything thrown at you. But really giving yourself some grace as you're learning. It's like, okay, that didn't work. Maybe I'll do something else in terms of, let's say, for example, a marketing strategy. That didn't work. Let's go in a different direction. So give yourself some grace. But if you're not passionate about it, that's where that grit comes from.
I like that, because you have to have some type of staying power. MD, you mentioned that you've been doing this for a really long time, and there are so many moving parts.
Yep.
There's you, the wife, the kids.
Yep.
Business itself, and then you have all these external factors that play a part in the work that you do. How do you manage and maintain those relationships, through all the various stages, just to get people from, I saw a piece of property and now I'm taking this property? That seems like there's a long list of things that have to take place that test your grit, your grace, and your grind.
That's right. And so what we do is I'm special I'm the person who would make sure that the whole team has the focus, right? So when you talk about the grit for us, it comes from knowing that we're all about to hit a mission. The mission that we're trying to do is make housing available for more people. We focus in the affordable housing space. That's just a passion for us. Some people do luxury, some people do mid to moderate income folks. We focus on that affordable space just because that's my background when I worked in the municipal settings. And so you got to find out your passion point, like you said, and that's your purpose. So for us, it just pulls us forward. As you talk about each of those, it has to be really clear what your goal is and how defined it can be. So the simpler, the better. If it takes, if you can't explain it to a fifth grader, like they say, then it's probably too complicated. And for us, like Lavita just mentioned, we want to make sure we make housing available for as many people as possible. So that keeps it very simple, and we want to help other people do the same. So for us, those are the two big components for us. And then, as Dr. Sam was mentioning, you have to give each other grace, but we have high accountability. So there's a balance. And entrepreneurs, especially with your family office, you can't mistake, execution and allow a lot of excuses. So you just got to decide what your company culture is. And for us, it's not only legacy, but it's execution. And we call it, we analytically inspire relentless execution. So we got to be relentless. You got to execute. And that's the grit part of it.
I like that. When we come back after the break, I want to dive in with Lavita and talk about grace, while at the same time segue into resilience and respect in business, because they play a big part in how you move your culture forward in the company that you want to start. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. And I hope that you have your pen, your pad, and your digital device, because the wisdom keys that are being dropped today, you want to make certain that you have them as you begin to start your business. We take this moment and this time to really flesh out what it looks like to move into a space that oftentimes is unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable, but there's grace attached to being an entrepreneur. Lavita, let's talk about that for a moment, because grace, faith and grace play a very big part in the work that we do as individuals, because the humanity is attached. And then this whole notion of the requisite skill sets related to dealing with people when they're trying to figure out what it is they want to do. How does grace help you move forward in industry?
Well, it did. I had to give myself a lot of grace when I transitioned, from the full-time educator into this whole business world. And teachers and educators often kind of downplayed their skills. We think it's just, we contain it into a box and we think, oh, this can only happen in an ISD on a campus. And so many people were speaking into my life telling me, you really have a great set of transferable skills that you can really use anywhere. And so I started doing more research and started really looking up, okay, what are these transferable skills? One of the things that I can really give advice to is that you should definitely not downplay the skills that you have. And also a great tool was Google. And I actually went through one of the Grow with Google courses, took one of the project management, got the certification for that. And ironically, as I was going through that coursework, so many of the instructors on that particular course were referring to educators, and they were saying how great educators were, and they had these phenomenal skill sets that were so transferable in so many different markets. And so that gave me so much encouragement to say, okay, I wasn't just in a room full of little people, on a campus of several hundred kids. And no, you were like handling their families. It was a lot of stakeholders, on a campus. You were handling their families, the administration on your campus, the administration outside of your campus. And so one of the things I really, really started to do, just look inward and say, you know what, I do have a lot of skills that they're not meaningless. I just need to be able to hone those and just use it in a different area.
I like that aspect of the requisite skills. I want to bring Pam in for a moment because we talk about transferable skill sets. And as we've watched many people since the beginning of the year get these don't come to work orders, and they're trying to figure out what to do. Pam, if you've worked in government and been in business or worked for a company who's done business with the government, what type of requisite skill sets can people say, I need to look at my resume again and see how to make another resume from my first resume in order to either become employable or look at a consulting opportunity to begin to consider being a solopreneur for a little while?
Really take an inventory of what your skill set is. I mean, I think we take it for granted sometimes as we're doing, let's say if we're working in a corporate career or a government career, all of the things that we are doing in our current role. So it can be, I'm consulting, I'm procurement, I'm writing memos, or I'm writing proposals. You take an inventory of all of those skills that you do have, and then figure out how you can translate that into maybe your own business. So, if you're good at proposal writing is a actual skill and an actual thing that you can do as an entrepreneur. People hire people to write proposals. So really taking an inventory of the skills that you do have in your current career, and then translating that into something that you can do on your own, or maybe do it as a consultant. So really take an inventory. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're navigating kids and your children and the things that you're doing now. You're coordinating schedules, you're doing all of the things there. So you can translate those skills as well into something that you can be doing for yourself or in a corporate or government setting.
I think that that's important that people do. I think both you and Levita said how individuals will downplay their skill set. And sometimes that comes from not being appreciated, not being, rewarded, not being respected or honored on the job. What is one key thing, Levita, that you would say that people need to bring with them if they decide to become an entrepreneur? What is the one skill set that you believe that they should have?
Oh, my one skill set is critical thinking. That that I harp on that. That's very big in education, but I found myself looking at people in a different light. I was so used to, like we say, little people, dealing with little people all day long. I started looking at adults thinking, whoa, we have really got to get critical thinking skills. That is just an absolute must, in my opinion. And that, that's just the ability to be able to just analyze the situation quickly and, go through all the scenarios and problem solving. That's critical thinking. And I think that is seriously at the top of the list.
Absolutely. Pam Sams.
Mm-hmm. I definitely concur. I was definitely going to say the top skill is problem solving, and they maybe knowing how to navigate a situation and being creative. There's always, well, the old adage, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Having some creative way to problem solve is really a key skill that most people should have if they're going to start their own career, own entrepreneur journey as well, or even navigate into another career, is having that skill. And then, of course, really proper decision making as well. Some people have so many things that they're doing, but they don't come to a solid decision on this is how we need to move forward. So I would definitely say those skills really would enhance what people want to do in an entrepreneurship journey.
Absolutely. So in addition to critical thinking and problem solving, I'm going to ask MD Marshall this question because respect is a very big part of not only being a business owner, but how you carry yourself throughout the work that you do so that your name and your reputation are not tainted. So
Right.
People who walk around, MD, who say, I'm the boss, how does that hurt the culture of a company?
Well, good question. I think what I try to say is, success leaves clues. So if you have the ability, and confidence comes, and I say this often, from your ability to show folks that you have not only done things perfectly, but that you've done things. And so for me, you were talking about with the ladies before, what is the one item that they believe is critical for success in entrepreneurship space or in any space. And I think that's, execution, action. A lot of us plan and plan and plan, and then plan and plan and plan, and then plan some more. I try to tend to give people the latitude to take action because the time you spend waiting to plan, you could have made a move and then corrected that move. So I believe in swift action first and foremost. And then as far as being a leader in a space, the key is, I don't believe the whole fake it till you make it. I believe make it so you don't have to fake it. And so for me, if you want to be great at, in our space is real estate development, then do the work, do the hard work that it takes to be known as a person that can be trusted in that space. And so I think that is nothing that happens overnight, like everyone is saying, but it is the passion that it takes to be good at something is evident by the work that you have to show as a result. And so for us, it's settlement statements. It's how many properties have you closed? How many folks have you helped become either homeowners or help them become investors themselves? And what are you doing, to bring people along? So we're big on mentoring in our space, and we're big on listening and taking classes. So we're lifelong learners. Not only are we, formally educated in our space, but, we're industrially educated, and we want to be as relevant as possible. So for me, action, execute, and then always be willing to, give as well as listen.
I think that those are great ways, MD, for people to build that type of respect and rapport with their employees, with their constituents. Now, all of you being in family-related businesses, how, I'm going to use the word easy because I've heard people say it's difficult, and I don't think it's hard to turn the corner to bring family members into business and then also create a culture of respect and thoughtfulness and all of the things that we've been talking about. Can you each give one way to help young people say it's okay to go into the family business? I'll start with MD.
So no, we love it. I'm a third generation, family business participant. My grandfather had a construction company. My father then carried that forward. We now do development. Our kids are in the business as well. And what they did is made it unequivocally clear that execution over excuses, because at the end of the day, you only eat what you kill. So we had to get good at killing, so to speak. And so for us, it's been an honor to be a part of a hardworking family. And I think it's all about creating the culture at the very beginning. So and that's your beginning. So if your family's business is dysfunctional, yeah, we've heard of a lot of that. That's just not where we are. So we have high execution. And what that means is very clear lines of authority and very clear lines of responsibility. and then accountability for following that up. So in our space, my son, Trey, is moving into really more presidential role, taking my part in opportunities to be just vision casting and kind of chairman. And so, but he's great at executing. I asked him, do you see this as a burden, the weight of the company? He says, no, I see it as an opportunity to take the work that you guys have done and then go further. Well, of course, he's formally educated, but he's also industry, educated. So we want to make certain that we say very clearly, we don't believe in just bringing family because family needs work. We believe in bringing family members on because they fit a space that the business needs. And those are two essential things that we look forward to.
When we come back after the break, let's continue this conversation about the role, that respect and resilience plays in the marketplace, while we'll equally dive into intentionality and the things that are related to, being purposeful in the work that we do. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can tell, we're deep into the G, the R, the I, and the P. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Come on in, family, because, MD mentioned very clearly the role and importance of how you introduce family business and family legacy, to your children, to extended family, to be a part of what you do. Pam, talk about that as you too have integrated your family members into the work that you do. And I don't ask you, was it embraced? Because like most of us, it's like, this is what we're doing. And this is where you fit in. And so, let's all come together and build this family dream, and I think it's important for people to see it as that perspective. We want to pass something down from generation to generation. Talk to us about that, Pam.
Mm-hmm. So unlike MD, my boys, both of them work for me, came to me because they needed jobs. Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't an intentional part of the family business. So, 2020, COVID happened. My oldest son, he had just, graduated out here trying to find a job. Nobody, of course, wanted to go out because of COVID. So I needed help. So I was like, hey, you can come and you can work for me. So he started as basically a financial assistant, really kind of helping me with my clients, all the paperwork, all the admin work. And then shortly after that, 3 years or about 2 years later after that, my youngest son, he graduated. And then he actually did come to me and say, hey, I would like to work for the company business. I unlike my oldest son who kind of got the free car in, I actually did interview my youngest son. Like, what are you going to bring to the table? What kind of skills? Those are the things in a proper interview, like he would do if he went to another job. And so he graduated with a degree in marketing. So he was really instrumental in helping me with my marketing strategy. Young people are really good with social media. So he took on my Facebook and my Instagram and a lot of those things and brought a lot of those skills that I had not integrated yet into my business, just kind of playing around with it. But he took it to a different level. He did all the analytics and all of those things. So really embracing that. Now, I do want to, kind of share with you is that in the beginning of a family business, and I'm probably sure the other guests must have that as well, is that when you bring your kids in, there is a clear delineation between you as parent and you as a boss.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit of that in the beginning on the things that I tell you to do to execute. There you can't have a thin skin. If I tell you to do something and you don't, and it's not done, or you don't do it properly, I'm going to have to get after you about it. It's not me as mom coming after you, it's me as boss. So getting that. So now, we're all good with that, and they understand, and I've given them more responsibility in the business, that they have shown that they can take on a little bit more responsibility. And now they don't have, such of a thin skin, and they know the things they need to do. So you do have to get over that little fight.
Yeah. Okay. We got one thing. I got a question I got to ask. I got to jump in. Is it, okay, so we're on a Zoom call. Lavita and I are on a Zoom call, and our son is on the call, and we're preparing to talk with a client, and then he calls me, by my first name. So in our culture, it's like, whoa, you went from dad to. He was like, and MD, what do you think? And I was like, whoa, wait. Okay, wait. Yeah, I'm professional. Yes, Trey, thank you very much. But yeah, it was funny to hear my son call his mom by her
at first.
At first time, it was like, boy, I don't get. Okay, wait a minute.
Y'all didn't sign up for that, right?
You didn't sign up for that one.
We're ready. But I think that that's a great segue, because when we talk about intentionality and how do sometimes our culture and core values, they always have to align with what we believe. But then, you're getting flack on the back, and boy, don't you ever call your mama Lavita.
Right. Exactly.
It's those things. So Lavita, let me ask you that though. How do core values in company, working with family, it's important. And where does that rank on the scale of not only being intentional, but making sure core values? And what are some of the company core values that are also the family core values?
Yeah.
So it's not my saying, but I heard it maybe several years ago. And this generation, meaning us, like our generation, we often said, I want to give my kids everything that I didn't have. And so we really sometimes forget we need to give our kids the stuff that we did have. And some of those things that we did have came out of us being a part of a family business, of working hard, of seeing that, leadership and seeing organization, and watching our parents and our grandparents having to deal with customers and clients. And we gained a wealth of knowledge watching that happen. And so that's something that we're trying to bring into our, family office. Okay, let's give these kiddos, young adults of ours, the things that we actually did have. And it was it's invaluable. It's invaluable to be able to, bring some of those characteristics in, some of those things, those traits that we've gained. And it helps our business to build trust and to build loyalty. I recently kind of read something that talked about, having business integrity, and you were talking about being intentional. And so this little piece that I read talked about how do you have business integrity? And it's basically a very simple formula. It's learning how to close the gap between your intentions in business and your actions in business.
I like that. Yeah. I think in everyday life, people have a struggle with intention and action. I'll ask MD this question because oftentimes, not just in the real estate industry and business, there is a lot of mistrust because people have been burned, in so many ways by people will say one thing and they'll do something opposite, or you're trying to work with people and then they take credit for the work that you do. How do we help navigate trying to get that fast buck and stepping on people to try to get somewhere versus saying, I just need to slow my roll and take my time do my part? What does that look like in real time?
So good. So for us, it's abundance mindset. So we believe in an abundance mindset as a family and of course due to our faith. But when you take the opportunity to say, what God has for me is for me. So if someone wants to take this shortcut, we let them. We don't try to be the Holy Spirit for other people. We try to be at the best that we can be in every situation at all times. And we bridge the gap by saying and knowing what's for us is for us. So we don't have to press, push, or pull. We just execute in the way that we do with excellence. And so my big thing is I went to Disney, and I'm a big fan of the Walt Disney story. And so I have 3 of his books on the shelf, and my favorite one is Be Our Guest. And so when we went, of course, I went to Disney, and then afterward, I became a fan. Of course, I just went because it was time for us to take the family. And we had a glorious time. And I then became a student of Walt Disney, and I was most impressed by giving his team autonomy to make decisions and then only holding them accountable for things with which they had the authority to make decisions on. But he had an abundance mindset, and he had a guest or others first. So for us, we do others first, abundance mindset, and people are held accountable for the things they have authority over. And those things have kind of been our pillars.
I appreciate that. Pam Sams, I have a different question for you. I'm just sitting here thinking, I started my business in 1990 with 7 years of spare change. And, oftentimes people don't understand the value that coins can have when you break a dollar, as well as all the dollars that you save when you break a bill. Talk to us a little bit about people are looking for capital. Do you really need a lot of money to start a business? And how do we help people start with what they have and then teach them how to grow from there?
Exactly. You don't have to have a whole lot of money to get started. Well, some industries, there is what they call, entry. There may be a bit of a cost, but if you're taking your skills, like I said, the inventory, if you're going to go out and strike out of your own to be, let's say, a financial advisor or a proposal writer, whatever the case may be, know what you need in terms of the resources. Of course, you're going to need some working capital. So if you start saving, I'm always a big proponent of saving, not only just for your household, but if you're going to start your business, maybe you start it as a side hustle and you're putting money away as you go along. So when you get to that point where you think you want to hop out from your 9-to-5 and do your business, you'll have some monies that you can start using on your own to kind of grow your business. Again, as I mentioned before, you may not be paying yourself for some period of time. So whatever you're going to bring into the business may go back into the business versus going back into your household expenses. So you're going to have to work both of them in tandem to know what you need to run your household, but also what are you going to need for business resources as well. I think I mentioned before on a previous episode is that, you can also tap into your family and friends. Of course, we need to make sure that they will buy and believe in your dream just as much as you do, and that they are very supportive. They're not going to want their money back, tomorrow. But having some resources there with family and friends may also help if you don't have all of the resources on your own. But it doesn't take a whole lot.
I appreciate that, because I know for each of us, we store a little aside. Every time we have to be intentional about how we use our dollars. We have to be intentional about, who we take dollars from. And I think that's when we come back in our 4th block, we're going to talk about that. So let me just go ahead and jump to break, because I want to spend the next 12 minutes talking about our P: prayer, patience, planning, and persistence. There's something about being able to find tangible ways to do what you want to do without literally losing your mind. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just 2 millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can see, these are the days and the times where you have to really decide, what do you want to do with your money? What do you do with your time? And what do you want to do with yourself as a person? Let's have this family conversation, because we are all people of faith here. And faith drives a very large component of who we are and what we do. And I'm going to start with Levita in the area of your giftedness. How important, if people are trying to figure out what to do, how do your gifts, as scripture says, make room for you and the work that you do in the world?
Well, I think you definitely have to be prayerful going into any new venture or any new career. I think you need to be led by the Holy Spirit. I don't think you need to, well, I know for a fact, you don't need to get ahead of God. You know, we say that. And I think it needs to just be a very clear leading. I'm not saying that God always shows you like all of the steps that are going to happen, that then you wouldn't have faith. However, I think you need to be very, very open to where God is leading you, because sometimes we're going the way just that we want to go, and that's not the way that He wants us to go. And so even though He may be leading you into that entrepreneurship role, it just might look differently, and we have to be okay with the way that He wants us to be in that particular role.
I like that. Whatever that role may look like, because sometimes people have a hard time finding their path and their place. MD, of the P's, which one, I know you probably do them all: prayer, patience, planning, and persistence. Because I've watched you over the years. You come to business with such a focus and intentionality about what you do. How do you help people who get stuck in their head about where to start and what should be next, and then what comes after that, and then how do I keep going? Because some people just can't get themselves out of the thought process to the action process.
Right. It's the planning and the persistence. So for me, as you know, we covered in prayer. I lean on Proverbs 16:9, where it talks about man makes his plan, God orders his steps. I just believe in the action part of persistence, because I trust that if we bathe it in prayer, then we can move forward, and God is going to open the doors that He's already predestined for us to have open. He's going to close those we need to stay away from. But what He does is He expects me, as I am reading and trained, that to execute, to make my plan, and to persist, because He may not open the door when I want it to be open. So I have to be continuing to persist. So for me, I lean on that, and I like the fact that you do, have the other P's. But as soon as you mentioned them, those two just leapt off the page for me. I heard this saying. It wasn't mine. Kerry Washington said it on an interview, and she said, "I have to run fast for the bus, and with all my speed." So she says, picture yourself at a bus stop. A bus is there, and you don't know if it's going to wait or if you're going to be able to catch it. And I'm paraphrasing her statement, but it was really profound when I heard it. And she says, so my goal, my duty is to run as fast as I can for that bus. And if I run as fast as I can for that bus and I miss the bus, then it wasn't my bus. It wasn't for me. But if I walk and that was my bus, then I've missed my opportunity. So I don't worry about the outcome. I worry about the energy that I put into pursuing it. And that's kind of what I resonated when I heard that, because that's kind of what I take from what you're sharing or what you're asking. So for folks who are starting the business, I say, make your plan and persist with it, because the timing may not be aligned with yours. And Levita and I were making decisions just this weekend, and we had to pivot because the timing wasn't what we wanted, and then the end result is yet to be seen. But the very next step is something I can control. Can't control the outcome, but I can control me persisting with the very next step. So my thoughts to young entrepreneurs or to solopreneurs or to emerging business owners would be, make that step after you've prayed, after you've planned, then you want to persist and move forward. So those are my thoughts.
I appreciate that. I have a follow-up question for you related to that, because I have heard the adage that persistence pays off, but oftentimes people don't like the dividend on that return. So how do we help
I
people
agree.
who are grappling with, I put in all that time, I put in all that work, I put all that energy and that effort, and this is what I get?
Right.
Um,
So good. I mean, you're right on track, and
that.
I'm sharing with you. So Lavita and I will share. We just closed on a different property that we had, and the return on that investment was a little less than we anticipated. Now we still had an okay return, but it wasn't what we had planned when we first started. And what I'm sharing is we have to leave room, and this is my spirit man talking. We have to leave room for God's lessons. And the key is they never, I mean, just like you guys, some of you are in education, sometimes we don't make 100 on the test. So for me, I'm always listening for that. And I would like young entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, emerging business owners to understand that's why you persist, because it's not going to be the timing. It's rarely, not going to say not, it's rarely going to be the timing you want. So we have to do what Proverbs 16:9 said, is make your plan, but leave room in the margins for God to order your steps. And so for me, that means we sold a property. We were expecting X. We got a different return, and so we got X minus whatever. So, but we did get the lesson. We did get the success. We know what we would do differently, and we quickly moved to the next thing. And that's why I share with everybody, persistence, 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 because if we, cry in our coffee, then we miss the opportunity to move on the next project, which we're right into. We roll right into the next one. So move. I say that action.
I appreciate that. And Pam, I want you to jump in because, oh, girl, when I think about the P's, the planning, the patience, the prayer, and the persistence, oftentimes we trip ourselves up. Because as Lavita mentioned, running ahead of God, running ahead of a plan, how important is it to map out your journey within your control and then seeing it through?
Mm-hmm. Very important. I ditto what everyone has said in this conversation, is that you do have to have a plan. I believe, one of my mentors earlier in my career said, trust the process. You write it out, you work the plan, you have to be persistent with it, and you basically see it through. Now, of course, there are going to be some curveballs, and you may have to pivot during that plan that you have mapped out. But if you trust the process and follow the steps every day to get to where you want to be, that's what happens. As MD had mentioned before, if you didn't make it, it's not your bus. I always say, if you knock on the door and it doesn't open, that's not your door. So you have to kind of keep going with the game plan that you have mapped out with that, but definitely be open to the pivots. So, if God puts you in a different direction on where you need to go, you need to follow that. Sometimes entrepreneurs are really hard-headed and they kind of keep pounding and pounding and pounding, and that may not be the direction that God is putting you into, that you need to pivot at this point in your business with that. So you have to be open and listen to that as well, with a well-led plan that you have out, but also be open to some of the things that you do need to do in order to maneuver and then move forward with that. But planning and persistence are definitely my two as well.
So as we prepare to close out this block, if we could share, let me see which one I want to do. Mm-hmm. When we think about business and entrepreneurship, each of you give them what not to do. I think sometimes we can tell people what to do. And then if we don't tell them what not to do, sometimes they put that in the to-do column. So think about that for a moment. As an entrepreneur, and people are, as MD has stated, they're either just getting started, they're right in the middle, or they're soaring and trying to keep it all together. What is something as an entrepreneur, don't do what? Just so that way they can put that in the proper column and know that it will be the thing that could hinder you from being able to soar. Who wants to go first?
I think I'll say something quick to that. instead of, this is the what not to do, instead of saying, oh, I just want to make a lot of money, so don't chase money. Instead, chase your passion and chase your purpose. And that's the whole idea of finding your why, basically. And because the why is going to be that rocket fuel that's going to keep you going when that whole entrepreneurship journey gets really tough, and it's going to be tough. So that's what I would say. So don't chase the money, just chase that why.
Love that.
It's good. So I would jump right in behind her and say, do not think that your first draft of your plan is going to be your last draft. So when you hear me say persist, act, it is persist, act. As soon as that moves forward, persist again. You hit a roadblock, pivot around it. I'm still persisting, but I'm not persisting down a road that is fruitless. So I'm looking for where God is providing me fruit, because if I join him where he's already at work, then I know that I'm doing the right thing in the right way for the right reasons. And so to piggyback what Levita is saying, I definitely say don't chase the money, but do be persistent, and don't be afraid, just to stay with the don'ts. Don't be afraid to pivot if the roadblocks don't produce fruit. That's what I'm looking for. Don't stay in a pivot place without fruit.
I like that. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So mine would be, don't expect this to be fast. A lot of people get in and it's like, oh, I'm going to be, successful. I'm going to do this. Like Lita said, I'm going to chase it for the money and I'm going to make all of this money. So don't think it's going to happen. I'm probably a 23 overnight success. If people see me out in the community, they see all the things I'm doing. It's like, you're really doing it. 23 years of the grind and the persistence and all those things. So it's not going to happen overnight. So I would expect entrepreneurs, don't expect it to be an overnight situation. You got to put in the work, and then definitely the fruits of your labor will see through in the long run.
Absolutely. When we come back, I'll give my reflection after the break.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can tell, today is about what it means to stay in the race of living your dreams. It's not about fast money. It's not about what other people have to say. It's not about even you knowing everything. It comes down to how much work are you willing to put in to reach your goals and to live the life that you were meant to live. God says in his word that he gives us the ability to create wealth, but that wealth comes with work. Retool your skill set, find your resilience, and get yourself a group of people who can pour into you as you navigate your entrepreneur journey. Thanks for watching. Bye now.